Katie is a director, writer, and performer who grew up in Massachusetts, rural Japan, and Tokyo. Shorb is the producing artistic director of the Generic Ensemble Company. Directorial work includes the MIKADO, Reclaimed, Robin Hood, an Elegy, and many others. Her solo show, Una Corda, has been performed in Chicago, Urbana-Champaign, Los Angeles, Oberlin College, and various Texas locations. She has served on the faculty at Southwestern University and UT-Austin. She is currently directing a solo performance installation by Shay Youngblood. She was a 2015 invited fellow at the Peer Leadership Exchange for National Institute for Directing and Ensemble Creation in Minneapolis, hosted by Pangea World Theater and Art to Action. Katie?
Hi. Hi. Oh, hi. Thank you, Malvern, for having us. And I'm really it's kind of weird because Kimberly, who's the guest of honor today, is my partner in, like, living and stuff, like bed sharing type partner. And too much information. But I really, because I admire her as a poet so much, I'm actually like really honored to be able to read with her. And Morgan has been a poet that I've known about for a very long time, and I've had the privilege of working with, and it's always lovely to share a stage with you. So I'm just really, really happy to share things. So I'm not a poet, so I'm going to read some prose, I guess is what it's called. Some words I'm writing for a show called Inappropriate, which is about desire, among many other things. So that's all I'm going to say. And you can hold applause till the end, and I should keep track of time. Oh. Violinists are the worst people. They're all ego. For violinists, fuck, marry, kill isn't a drinking game, it's a to-do list. They're always the center of attention, and when they're not, it's only because that guy is standing in their way. Any good violinist will spend 2 solid years, if they're lucky, sounding like pure trash before they finally make some noise that doesn't sound like a dying cat. Who is the personality for this kind of bullshit? Stubborn sociopaths with steely ambition, that's who. Sex with a violinist will be exciting in that way that vandalizing the schoolyard with your unstable friend who is taking revenge on some teacher who gave her a B- is exciting. If you try to pursue a serious relationship with a violinist, it's best to do so with a second violin. Then you know she will at least have a false sense of humility, even if she is not so secretly plotting to kill every person in the chair ahead of her in order to make her way up the food chain. If you are in a relationship with a soloist, you're only there until she finds someone else who can get her even further in her career. Any pet or plant you unwisely leave with a violinist to tend while you're away from town will likely return to you dead. And if it's not dead, beware, it will try to kill you in your sleep. I dated a girl once. No, wait, that's not true. I lived with a woman once. That's not really true either. I left a perfectly sweet person for another person who happened to be a woman girl who seemed like a good idea at the time, but was really a symptom of desperation. I once lived with desperation. She had a pedigree, 7 sister educated, and was not a student, but only just. The first time I met her, she helped me move. It wasn't until after we had slept together for the first time that I heard her answer the phone. "Praise the Lord," she said. When she hung up, I said, "What was that?" "Praise the Lord," she said with a straight face. No, that's not true. She said it with a devoted face. That's not true either. She said it with a face of duty mixed with fear, mixed with hope, mixed with guilt. I must have been pretty thirsty to let that one slide, to ignore that look. I was going to ask, have you ever made love to a fundamentalist Christian? I realize that's not the question I want to ask. I meant, have you ever had lesbian sex with a fundamentalist Christian? Not really that either. I mean, have you ever gone down on a fundamentalist Christian while you're finger fucking her and then have her grab your head so rough you barely hear her bite back her voice that she really has no ability to stifle, and as her voice escapes, her thighs block your ears and you see red and all you feel is her pulling so tight and shudder so violently, it's like she is antimatter and that needs filling, and slipping into the void is you, the sodomite, pagan, hell-kindling of Satan? At first I thought it was the hottest thing ever, and I was like, these repressed girls have the best sex, and I briefly believed I was so irresistible that I was causing some type of religious epiphany. And then we started going to many Christian bookstores in my car, and she seemed really oblivious to the looks people gave me. They gave her looks too, but for different reasons. She made me promise to read the Left Behind series, and I actually did. And some nights she would read about the end days, shut her book with a deep sigh, climb on top of me, pulling down her underwear and slipping her hands under my shirt. That was the only time we really communicated. Sometimes hearing someone tell you that they're turning their back on God to be with you is flattering. But really, it makes you feel like an asshole. That's not it. It makes you feel like a piece of shit. And that's not it either. It makes you feel like you're the reason evil exists in the world and that your birth was merely to provide a foil to all that is pure and good. By the time she told me she had made out with the 18-year-old baby butch she was recruiting, it was beginning to dawn on me that this was a very bad idea. And clearly resisting all that temptation made it difficult for her to discern belief from ethics, from hurt, from desire. I was thirsty, but not as thirsty as her. And sometimes we're thirsty, and sometimes we're just thirst. Viola. Violists are the slightly less pretty older sister of their beauty queen, violin. You'd think the violist was gorgeous, except if you encountered her on her own, but her damn sister always outshines her. If you want to see what gratitude really looks like, go down on a violist and refuse to let her return the favor. She'll be loyal to you for life. Almost all violists started on the violin, but one day the string quartet director or orchestra director looked at this flock of violinists and picked one who he thought would complain the least to fill in for the missing viola. And it stuck. If you had to carry out a high-stakes heist, make the viola the lookout. She will likely get shot if something goes south, but she'll live just long enough to radio through so everyone else can escape. I am on a horse. I don't know how this happened. I remember that I have not learned properly how to control a horse's gallop, yet she increases speed. I know to pull on the reins and say, "Whoa, girl," but I also know that my thighs squeezing in fear keep telling her to go faster. She must be confused. The mare is wise. I can tell because every time I am about to lose my seat, she shifts ever so slightly to catch me before I fall. I realize her name is Constance. In the distance, a figure in gray walks in my direction through the mist. It is nighttime. I cling to a sweatshirt that says Mount Fuji on it. Rain pelts me from the side, and I cannot believe it is late July. I don't know how I got here. Ahead of me are two adults, one man and one woman. The man shines a flashlight on the path ahead of him. The woman clings onto his belt with both hands. I am pushing the woman's hips from behind. She says words in a plodding rhythm, but the wind makes it impossible to make out what she's saying. Behind me, another man offers something to me which I decline. I understand he is my brother, and the two ahead of me are my parents. We walk up the trail until we approach a steep precipice. I look to the top and see the gray figure standing and watching us. I stand behind my mother, pressing on her hips as she scrambles up the rock face. She pants and grimaces. The sky is getting light. We turn around and the sun rises. My mother pants, still, as tears stain her cheeks. I am on my back amid pink sheets. My face is slick. My torso is covered in sweat. I don't know how I got here. I hold a limp and warm breathing head and body against my shoulder. I feel her lashes tickle my neck. Her arm is across my chest. My hand is behind her head. I can hear my heart beat and I can hear her breath. I close my eyes. I see the great figure. Just as the figure approaches, I begin to fall backward. The ground escapes me and I fall back. The figure reaches out, but I keep falling. I fall and fall until I open my eyes with a quick twitch. She asks, "What's the matter?" And I say, "Only a dream." I know she protects me in these moments. She burrows her head harder into my shoulder, which feels far too small and bird-like to be comfortable. The cellist is the smartest string player, and she knows it. She is well-read and wise, but vain and self-aware in her vanity, which is why she tends to wear turtlenecks. She'd prefer to be known as the hidden beauty than the ostentatious gem. She is strangely disembodied, which is contradictory to the fact that she spends all her time straddling a wooden sex doll, stroking its nether regions with one hand and controlling its voice with the other. If a cellist had more time, she would masturbate to Nietzsche every morning before beginning her day. An enraptured cellist rocking back and forth, wrapped around the pear-shaped cello torso, is at once obscene and chaste. One wonders why not all nuns and sex workers both are cellists. And this is the last one. Swimming is wonderful except for the fact that humans can't breathe underwater. The first time I tried to swim, I sank to the bottom of the pool. I was probably less than 4 feet tall, and it was extremely disconcerting. For the first summer I took swimming lessons, teenage girls would hold onto my hands and pull me through the water. I didn't learn how to float until a year after that. Even after I learned how to float, swimming always felt like drowning, or rather narrowly avoiding drowning. No one in my family swims very well. I never once saw my mother in a swimsuit. I don't believe she owned one. But I had so many memories where my dad and I would get into the shallow end of the pool and he would just toss my 40-pound body left and right, with me using his knee as a launching pad. I remember how the skin on his back felt both cold and warm, like a wet balloon. This summer, I decided to teach myself how to swim again. The key I learned is in making oneself more slippery. Make yourself longer. Make yourself into the bow of a skiff, not the bottom of a tugboat. Push your buoy so your feet align with your torso, slipping through the imaginary slits in the water. The hips are the engine, the limbs are the propeller blades. Side body, side body, side body, breathe. Side body, side body, side body, breathe. I still get confused. Sometimes, when I can't quite roll far enough, in breathing, I panic. My legs drop and I'm bobbing up and down rather than moving forward. But sometimes I inhale the water, notice the pressure in my windpipe, and still look back down at the bottom of the pool and remind myself I have another chance to get air. I push the water out through my nose and in an act of faith, follow through the stroke to the next breath. Side body, choke, exhale, breathe. Then I think, be long, side to side, don't panic, there's plenty of air. And that's when I know I'm learning to swim and not just not drown.